Chris and were there at the time. What are your thoughts on?
Chris was a good friend of mine, and he was one of the best in the business, man. There's no question about that. He was definitely one of the best in the business. That guy had passion like no other. I mean, he was unbelievable inside that ring. There's a lot of theories about, roid rage and all that crap. Well, we'll talk about Chris Benoit, and then I'll talk about my disappointment in mainstream media with that. Chris to me was he was one of the best guys in the locker room. I mean, he was not only inspirational, he was intense, he was focused, he was passionate, he was one of the best workers in the world, without a question. He was definitely one of the best workers in the world. However, I think what he did at the end of his life completely nullified his status as one of the greatest in the world in professional wrestling. To me, it sickens me to see that Chris Benoit was such a coward. And it's hard for me to say that. I feel my throat tightening up when I say that Chris Benoit was a coward, because when I knew Chris, he wasn't a coward. Now, am I misunderstanding where Chris was coming from? I mean, I understand that he was real passionate about professional wrestling. He was real passionate about his family. Maybe the passion got to him too much. Maybe he was too passionate. But it was sickening and it was cowardly. Do I think it was roid rage? No, absolutely not. My personal belief, what happened was, I think Nancy and Chris got into a huge argument. They started to fight. I think he choked her out. I don't think he meant to kill her. I think apparently they were both drunk. There was open beer bottles and wine bottles everywhere. So I think they were both smashed. I think he put his arm around her neck and, choked her out. I think she passed out, and of course, he thinks, oh, she'll wake up in a couple of seconds. She doesn't wake up. She's dead. I think he starts to unwind. If it was roid rage, she would have bruises and cuts all over her. His son would have been dead right after his mother was dead, or Chris's wife was dead. That didn't happen. I think he choked her out. She passed out, and he couldn't revive her. And then I think he just became unhinged. This is where Chris became a coward to me, because rather than to stand up and accept what you just did and face the consequences, he decided to take his son out and then hang himself so he doesn't have to face the consequences. And to me, that's just cowardly and it's sickening, and I just don't think, I have no respect for Chris. All the respect and he was one of the guys I respected the most in this business, and that's just completely gone. And it's not because of what I think may have been an accidental death. Regardless, it's still manslaughter. Whether it was murder or manslaughter, it's still wrong. But the fact he decided he didn't want to face the consequences and decided to take out his son as well, to me, that's just cowardly. And he has no respect for me whatsoever.
And you were going to say something about the mainstream media?
I've always been weary with mainstream media, but with the Chris Benoit story, it really showed how backward mainstream media really is and how much of a ratings whores they are. Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly all come out as, we're not ratings whores, we just tell the truth. These guys are just as much rating whores as the people on CNN or MSNBC, anything to inflame a story. And, the roid rage, that is what is shocking to people. That's what will get the viewers watching and the ratings higher. You just look at the evidence. It cannot be roid rage. There would have been bruises all over Nancy. There would have been cuts all over her. The son would have been dead right afterwards. There was no roid rage involved. And they completely ignore the fact that there was empty beer bottles and empty wine bottles all over the place, and that alcohol was a huge factor in what happened. And for them to kind of take a look at the evidence to see what happened and to watch mainstream media ignore the facts and run with something that is complete theory, and just because it's a ratings grabber is very, very disappointing, and that really turned me off mainstream media.
Were you contacted at all by anybody in the media? Asked to talk?
No, there was a couple of messages on my phone to call him back, and I just had no desire to call him back.